What's up guys, Elfis here, and today we're going to be doing another HoN tips video. This one is going to be about disjointing projectiles or abilities. So first of all, I just want to quickly or briefly describe what that means. So essentially, projectiles travel on a path. They aren't skill shots really. They take a little bit of skill, some of them, but they aren't really skill shots. So I'll take your auto attack for example. Watch Luna's auto attack. I auto attack, it goes directly to him if I click on him, okay? No matter where I am, no matter what's in my path, it'll go where I click, okay? That's just reality, okay? It's on like essentially a heat-seeking track to whatever target it is. So disjointing abilities is essentially the ability to stop that track from reaching you. So what that means, and we'll give a few examples in a second, but essentially it means you can evade attacks even though they are essentially heat-seeking. So we have Hammerstorm here as an example because Hammerstorm's hammer throw is in fact a projectile and is in fact heat-seeking. Some of you may not consider it that, but it is. Anything that travels from one, usually a unit, to another unit is a projectile. Let's see examples. So Pyromancer's ultimate, Thunderbringer's abilities are not projectiles. Okay, Hammerstorm's ability is. Andromeda's stun is a projectile. Arachna's both auto attack and web shot, and I'm fairly certain her spider is also a projectile. Luna's lightning may be a projectile, but really in that case it's irrelevant because it's literally almost instantaneous. So I'm not sure whether Codex is, for example, or not. Codex may or may not be a projectile, but it's irrelevant because it's literally an instantaneous projectile, so there's nothing you can do to dodge it. So now that we've got that defined, now let's see how can we disjoint it. Well, we can disjoint it by a number of ways. We can go invincible, either physically or magically, depending on the ability. If I go physical immune against a magical ability, it won't disjoint it. But if I go physical immune against a physical ability, it will disjoint it, or vice versa. If I go magic immune against a magic ability, it will disjoint it. Let's see. The other option is a teleport or blink. Now, blink referring to portal key, referring to Hag's blink, referring to Mage Bane's blink, referring to a whole bunch of things. It also includes some pseudo blinks. So pseudo blinks are essentially when you blink from one place to another, but you're not actually teleporting. You're traveling there at a very high speed. So for example, Kronos' jump is a pseudo blink. Other heroes that have pseudo blinks. Let's see, Ra kind of has one. He has that little cliff, but I wouldn't consider it a pseudo blink. I'm not sure. They're not coming to mind at the moment. But a pseudo blink is any time you travel there. You travel to it's essentially a blink, but you travel there without actually teleporting. Some pseudo-blinks pop projectiles, pop being disjointed, it's kind of slang for it, and some do not, so keep that in mind. I think the vast majority of them do not, so if I were you, I would assume it doesn't, but there are some that do, depending on their pseudo-blink level, I guess. It's hard to describe, but so essentially there is a comprehensive list done by one of S2 staff's members. I'm not sure the authenticity of the list. I don't know how accurate it is. It hasn't been updated in about 5 or 6 months, but I will put the link in the description, so feel free to look. I imagine it's still fairly accurate because I don't think they changed much with respect to that process. So keep that in mind. Feel free to look. If you have any questions about it, feel free to ask me and I will be sure to answer them, but I'm not going to make another list if it's already out there. So feel free for that. The other thing is that some projectiles are not disjointable, and that is also in the S2 members post, but I just want to quickly highlight the 3 that they highlight, being Pyromancer's ultimate, Plaguerider's ultimate, and Witchslayer's ultimate. Very high damage abilities, single target projectiles, but they are not disjointable. Okay, you cannot disjoint them by blinking away. It's a little bit, well, no, I'll ignore that. So you cannot disjoint them, okay? But now that that's out of the way, let's go ahead and show you an example of something you can disjoint. So Hammerstorm's stun. You most certainly can disjoint Hammerstorm's stun. I'm going to go ahead and give you an example. Now Hammerstorm's stun is one of the few that does an AoE projectile. There is a couple other, Plaguerider's Contagion is an AoE projectile. Actually, you know what? It might not be a projectile. It might be instant. I'm not 100% on that. But there aren't many AoE projectiles, so it's not a huge thing you need to worry about. But the AoE projectiles still land. They still affect the things around where they were going to land. And you'll see what I mean by that in a second when you see Hammerstorm's hammer throw land. So we're going to go ahead and use the Shrunken Head first, and then we'll do a portal key example. But so the Shrunken Head we will use, and you have to make sure you use it after the projectile is thrown, or it does not pop it because it isn't allowed to be sent. So even though he gave the command to give the ability, if I had used the Shrunken Head before he threw it, it would cancel his command. It wouldn't allow him to use an ability on me because I am magic immune. Now, there are different cases you may want to stop the ability from being used, and you may want the ability to be used and just disjoint it. It depends on the situation. It depends on the game. There's nothing I can say other than that, okay? But feel free to ask questions about it if you have any concerns. The ability does still go on cooldown. It doesn't show it because of this isn't my player, it's kind of odd, I'm not sure why, there's like a bug. It won't show it on cooldown, but it does in fact send the ability on cooldown still, even though it disjoints it. Now, we've shown a shrunken head example, let's go ahead and show a PK example. So a PK example, the key thing to note with the difference is that it lands where it was sent, not where you are. So what I mean by that is that if I blink, and I'll blink over to Andromeda just to show you that Andromeda does not take any damage. Where I'm landing doesn't take the damage, it's where it was sent to. So it's still on that heat-seeking path now, it's just the heat-seeking path essentially was locked at the last place that I was. So I'm going to go ahead and show you the example now. So we're going to use the PK right as it is sent. So we can see that it still landed in that location. It still hurt them. It didn't hurt me because I teleported away. It disjointed it. And it also did not hurt Andromeda because she was not where it was originally sent. She was where I was. Now, it is a key thing to note that the ability, once again, is on cooldown. But don't trust this picture. I'm not sure why it's bugging. But it is, in fact, on cooldown, okay? The ability goes on cooldown. And watch, it won't let me use it again. Well, now it's off cooldown. But I just used it. Now it won't let me use it again because it's on cooldown. So it bugs out a little bit in this practice mode server, but it does in fact go on cooldown, okay? So keep that in mind. The ability is on cooldown, so that is the reasoning for disjointing. Why would I not want to use my Shrunken Head instantly? Well, maybe I'm the only one in the area. Maybe I want him to put the ability on cooldown, and then I'll use my Shrunken Head, if I have fast enough reflexes, of course, and then I can still be safe, and his ability will be on cooldown. This is a very key concept that a lot of high-level players, you'll see them do in games. They will have fast enough reflexes to pop their Shrunken Heads, pop their PKs, whatever, to disjoint the abilities, but the ability still goes on cooldown, and it can be a crucial ability sometimes. Hammerstorm Stun is an example of a fairly crucial ability. But that's really all there is to learn about disjointing. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. Feel free, once again, if you have any questions about this, and I do mean this because it's slightly a confusing concept considering not everything is disjointable and not every pseudo-blank disjoints and all kinds of things. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. I would appreciate it if you checked the S2 post, which I will once again put in the description first. So feel free to check there and check if any abilities are disjointable or non-disjointable first. And then if you're still confused, feel free to ask me in the comments section or inbox or anywhere you desire to communicate with me. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you learned something. There will be more HoN tips. Feel free to keep submitting replays, and that is all. GG, well played, guys. Elfis out.